Khaled Hansraj. I'm the program director at InterGen. Welcome to our first of three series in the Health Tech Breakfast Club. This morning, we've got the great pleasure of hanging out with a company out of Edmonton called DrugBank. We have Mike Wilson and Alexa McCarron, as well as one of our adjunct guests, Jangir Apu, who happens to be an investor in DrugBank. So we've got a nice complement of a speaker panel here. We're going to do the regular stuff. I'm just going to ask a bunch of questions. We're going to enjoy the session and really hoping for some good engagement from all of you. If you have a question while we're going through the Q&A, please feel free to punch it into the chat session, and we'll take questions as our time allows. And certainly we'll have a few minutes at the end to really dig into questions. So welcome again. I do want to make sure I introduce my team here. Sandy Gilbert, our CEO. Emily Hillman, our lead of community. And we also have another Emily Badsvik, our venture lead. And is there anybody else on the call? Anybody from our board? Maybe not.
Tony's in the Philippines, so she's not here today.
Right. So anyways, this morning we've got the great pleasure of having our partner on the call, Lindsay Hoff from Amplify Advisors. As many of you know, Amplify Advisors is a leading boutique financial advisory firm focused on all things finance for the SMB. So Lindsay, thank you for your support and welcome to the show, and take it away.
Awesome. Good morning, everyone. As Khalid said, my name is Lindsay Hoff, and I work with Amplify Advisors in recruiting services. I am a very passionate matchmaker, and I help our clients find the right fit for the candidate for the job. We have a very strong candidate pool that we know and trust, and both our clients and candidates listen. We listen to the individual needs. We're not just plugging in candidates. So I really love to match based on values and fit. We started as a financial strategy firm over 5 years ago. We focus on helping growth businesses scale with business leadership and profit. We are now at a team of over 45 professionals, and we're passionate about enhancing communities, amplifying opportunities, and cultivating connections. That is our purpose, and we get it done through our 3 service lines, which Khalid mentioned. So we can assist nearly with all accounting and finance challenges, including people, processes, or technology. We have our finance leader services, and that includes our fractional CFO and CFO services. We also have controllers, financial leadership, and fully outsourced accounting and finance. We have our recruiting services, which I have already touched on. We typically place CPAs in permanent or temp roles, as well as consulting projects. Amplify Tech is our ERP implementation and support line. We focus on helping companies with their financial strategy by implementing technology. We are an Oracle NetSuite provider, as well as an Acumatica partner. We license, implement, and consult for companies that want automation as an enterprise level to support their growth. Really, all of Amplify's service lines are designed to help growth businesses. And speaking of growth, I'd like to share a really great success story about one of our previous clients, Caltech. You might have heard of them. Caltech have been key players in Western Canada's geomatics community since 1990. From oil and gas surveys to mobile mapping services and everything in between, the Caltech family has grown from their 2 founders to a team of more than 225 today. Amplify was able to be part of that journey, and we matched one of our Amplify's finance leaders, Danny Chiarostella, with their growing business needs. Danny started at Caltech as a fractional CFO for 2.5 days a week. He worked to align their vision and growth goals, mentored their finance team, led a large acquisition and financing transaction, and ultimately succeeded in growing them from 2.5 days a week, finance leader services, to graduating to a full-time role. He did such a great job, they even wanted to keep him, but he's thankfully still with Amplify. Recruiting supported in finding a new director of finance who is doing an incredible job and is actually replacing Danny faster than anticipated. So this was just a great success story for all who were involved. They initially reached out to Amplify to stabilize their finance team. Prior to Danny, there were 5 people in the role. At the end of our engagement, Jade, their president, said this was the most stable their finance had ever been. We want to create value with every engagement we do, and this is really different for all of our clients. For Caltech, it was important to have a stable finance function to lead the charge in the growth initiatives. We were very happy to be part of it, and that is just one of our success stories and why we love helping small, medium businesses. Now I would like to introduce DrugBank, why we are all here this morning. DrugBank was founded by Michael Wilson. DrugBank provides a biomedical knowledge base focused on structuring and organizing the scientific details of drugs, targets, and clinical trials, primarily for drug discovery research. They accelerate drug discovery with tools for scientists to answer their research questions quickly. DrugBank has over 12 million users across thousands of institutions, including big pharma and universities. I'd now like to introduce our guest speaker, Alexa McCarron. She is the Chief Strategy Officer for DrugBank. She has an MBA and over 2 decades of strategic leadership experience. Alexa possesses a profound understanding of the healthcare market, particularly in the tech, pharma, and drug development sectors, both in the US and on a global scale. Her expertise has been instrumental in driving the growth of VC-backed startups, where she played a pivotal role in scaling their operations. Alexa, take it away. Good morning, everyone.
All right, so we're going to get cracking here. My first question's for Mike. Mike, tell us how DrugBank is used for drug discovery and clinical trial matching. Like, what is the machinery behind your software and platform that allows you to do this using machine learning? You're on mute, Mike. Mike, you're on mute. Mike, you're on mute.
I'm on mute. Sorry. Thanks. Classic Zoom problem. All right. Sorry about that, everybody. So DrugBank provides a high-quality biomedical intelligence platform to enable drug discovery primarily, as well as a few other use cases. And so we provide data solutions. We also have a user-friendly interface, and we work with biologists, data scientists, pharmacologists. And this is all built on top of DrugBank's proprietary biomedical knowledge base. So we have a number of technologies, as you're mentioning, that go into that platform to build and keep that information up to date. And we cover everything from targets to chemical structures of drugs to drug metabolism, clinical trials, patents, and even clinical details like side effects and drug-drug interactions. And so there's a number of use cases there, and you mentioned, drug discovery, precision medicine, clinical trial matching. We actually have kind of these 2 different buckets of customers. So we've got our main focus in drug discovery, and then we have some customers like clinical trial matching software where they bring in some content from DrugBank and integrate it into their software. So they might bring in some of the connections between drugs and targets or drugs and diseases that can help them sort through, clinical trials, identify the right patients for those trials, et cetera. But in our primary use case for drug discovery, we're really enabling researchers to accelerate their work. And so drug discovery, of course, is a very challenging process. It's never a linear path of step 1, 3 steps and you're done. It's always 1 step back, 2 steps back. There's a lot of questions you need to answer. There's a lot of hypothesis you're trying to generate and then experiment, explore. And so drug researchers have to do a number of different things in that process. So they're trying to understand, which targets should they investigate, which drugs should they investigate. It's always beneficial to go back and understand, what do we already know about that target? What connections does it already have? Does it have to diseases? What bioactivity does it have? What else has someone someone else done? Like, who has investigated this target already? Has it been a part of any clinical trials? There's many questions like this that researchers are investigating through the course of their work, and all of those questions, they help them understand, what to do next, or what area to focus on, or get to that next kind of insight or hypothesis, so that they can, go and do another, lab experiment, et cetera. And so there's a lot of these things that occur, and then of course sometimes you do an experiment and something goes wrong. You might have everything's working, you're going through a series of steps. Now, finally, you're doing your first in vivo experiment, and maybe it's, in this case, testing it in rats, and all of those rats have died. It's gone completely wrong. The experiments failed. So now, at that point, you're left wondering what to do next. You're going back, you're investigating, you're trying to explore, what do we know about that pathway? What do we know about this? Trying to get that next insight. And so there's all of these points like that, and we help those researchers get through those points, get to those insights faster, pull the information they need to answer those questions together more quickly, right? Rather than having to go search through all of the literature, paper by paper, go from source to source, get one insight here, one insight there. We see this researchers before DrugBank trying to plug all of that into an Excel sheet, et cetera. And so with DrugBank, we built essentially an AI researcher, is a way to think of it. And our platform goes out, it reads the literature, it reads patents, it reads clinical trial records. We have a number of different kinds of tools that kind of augment that data and link it together. And so we make it's all there, it's all ready to use and ready to access. And then we make it easy to access that with the tools and the platform that we provide to researchers. And so that's the basics of how we work with our customers.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike. What's the origin of the company? You got an interesting origin, and sort of how did you get into the fold of leading the charge of at DrugBank?
Yeah, so it's a really interesting story. So DrugBank started at the University of Alberta in Edmonton. And so it started in Dr. Wishart's lab. Craig Knox, the co-founder of the company, and myself we were working in a lab, in Dr. Wishart's lab at the University of Alberta. We both have a similar background in biology, computing science, or bioinformatics. There's at the U of A, there's some great programs for computing and for biology, and there's a really cutting edge bioinformatics program there. When I first started in university, I had never heard the word bioinformatics, so I didn't know that. I wasn't like, this is my dream career. I didn't even know that word existed. And so it's one of those cool things where you discover these different areas as you're going through university. And so that's kind of where I ended up finding a big passion in my life for this, the marriage of computing science, biology, taking scientific findings, translating them into applications, building tools to make that easier. I have a big passion for those areas, and Craig Knox has a similar kind of passion in life as well. And so we were working in the lab. DrugBank had started there a few years before. There's no business model when DrugBank had started, but it had become very popular in the academic research world, and it was having a really big impact. And at the same time, we had not customers at that point, but we had companies contacting us saying, hey, we want to try to do this, we want to try to do that. This information would be really helpful for so-and-so. So we knew that there was kind of this interest. We knew that there's a lot of potential with DrugBank. And so we had we basically pitched Dr. Wishart on the idea. We pitched the university on the idea. We got everyone on board. We spun out the DrugBank into a company, and then we started building it up from there. And we still have a great working relationship with the university and the lab. We still do collaborative projects with them. We just recently published another academic publication describing DrugBank that came out in nucleic acid research this month. And today, DrugBank has more than 21 million users. So it started as a website and data sets for researchers. Today, we still have that website. It's grown substantially. And that website's now the entry point to our platform. It has 21 million unique users per year, and we have more than 40,000 citations of academic literature. And so DrugBank has had a very, very big impact on on the research world. And, the user base on the site is a really interesting mix of research, drug researchers, of course, and academic researchers, but there's also healthcare professionals, students, pharmacists. There's a lot of people that come to the site because we collect so much useful information together in one place. We summarize it, and it can be really helpful for people to find that information. And DrugBank's become a very trusted source, a well-known source in many communities it's not a household name for everyone, but in certain circles, it is essentially a household name for things like drug discovery. Many pharmacists, pharmacologists, we hear stories. I think Jahangir was telling me a story where he was at visiting Oxford, I think it was, and the students there were talking about DrugBank, and he sent me an email. Well, everyone here already knows about DrugBank. So we have a global reach around the world, and it's amazing. It's amazing to be a part of this and see that impact that we have on the world. And of course, in the commercial side, we built it up over time, and we have we started. So DrugBank started with no business model. We spun it out. We bootstrapped for a while. We figured out some of those kind of models, and then we've built it up to a company where we have customers around the world. We have many of the top pharma companies. We have close to 200 customers, and we have basically customers all over North America, Europe, even some other countries as well. So it's a really interesting journey, and it's always funny when people ask that, because it's like, oh, how'd you get the idea to start DrugBank? But it's a little bit backwards because DrugBank started before the company.
That's a great story. Talking about business model and your sort of global success, what was your MVP that you used to validate the market? So obviously coming out of the University of Alberta, you had some prototype, call it. How are you able to sort of make the transition from academic prototype, maybe some internal usage, to an industry-focused tool that would be applicable for professional and commercialized usage?
Yeah, so it's an interesting, right? Because we already had a lot of technology and data. We had a lot of kind of traction around people coming to the site. We were able to do some different things there. So we started out with we investigated a few different angles that we could go. So we looked at different markets like students and pharmacists, and building reference tools for students and pharmacists. We looked at bringing more data into the kind of the healthcare space, EMR integrations, et cetera. We looked at bringing data solutions into precision medicine companies and into drug discovery. And so we already had a lot of pieces there. So we were able to kind of talk to those researchers, or not the researchers, sorry, talk to potential customers, talk to potential users, gather interest and feedback. And then ultimately we ended up building out some data solutions that took the data in DrugBank and put it into a form that people could access and query and bring into their own workflows. We built APIs. We expanded on the clinical data. So we found a number of use cases through that, and through talking to those users and understanding where are they getting benefit from DrugBank, what should we be adding next to support their further use. And we initially we focused on those data solutions, and then over time we started to build out basically take that website and transform that into a platform, which is the entry point to our user interface, so that we go beyond just the data solutions and connecting directly to the data to workflows, search tools, filtering tools, so that users coming on that platform can access all this information without having to write their own, write SQL queries, etc. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Over to you, Alexa. How's this commercial roadmap panning out? So, Mike and the team started the company a few years ago. It's obviously taken off in a big way. You've obviously hit a pain point in the market. Where are you guys at right now? Maybe top of the mountains on the commercial success so far, and sort of where are you going, and what do you think is achievable with DrugBank? in terms of commercial impact, but also impact from a health perspective in our healthcare systems?
Sure. So we are really pleased with the progress and the traction to date. Since the inception, DrugBank has seen steady adoption in products and solutions. Mike did a great job outlining and mentioning the 21 million unique visitors to our DrugBank website. And that has translated into over 100,000 registered users at 10,000 institutions who are currently active and loyal fans and customers of DrugBank. You know, we have over 185 total paying customers at 11 of the top 20 pharma organizations, which is really exciting for an organization like ours with plenty of room to continue to grow and expand within those accounts. We've secured top-notch partners from a funding perspective, from a technology and a content perspective, all who believe in our vision and our value. And the quality of the tech and the knowledge base that Mike and Craig have developed, you know, really differentiates us. We have built for purpose, trained AI models. We have over 150 million data points, over 500 million relationships. And the quality of that is evident when we have over 40,000 citations, many of which are in peer-reviewed publications. So that really speaks highly to the quality of the work that we have been doing. I think the great thing about DrugBank and what we are trying to do here is that there is a huge opportunity. We all know that the process to develop and commercialize pharmaceuticals, it's really expensive, putting a toll on patients, on, you know, health systems in single payer areas like Canada, where your government is footing bills for pharmaceuticals. It's putting a cost on all of us. The more expensive these drugs are, the longer they take. And patients aren't getting the therapies that they need. The great thing about the mission of DrugBank is we feel we can make a fundamental positive impact on really making this process more efficient and get new, novel, life-changing drugs out to patients faster.
Very cool, thank you. And what's the revenue model? Like, how do you guys make money? Maybe, and has that seen a significant evolution from the time Michael took this company out of the university to now, or has it always been the same?
Well, I can let Mike speak to the previous, but you know where we are now, we are in a SaaS business model, which is great, that enables our customers to access our solutions and technology, you know, on a recurring basis. It allows them to have access to the latest updates, real-time quality information and data. And in terms of how we reach those customers, our website, you know, we reach them in many ways and are fortunate to have a super strong inbound funnel driven by the traction that we've already talked about and that kind of cult following that we've developed of people who really are champions of DrugBank. This then brings them to our site. We are in process of registering and converting those users into a freemium model that eventually our full service internal sales team takes and, you know, moves through the commercial process where relevant. And then we have a really strong, we've also developed account development and client success teams to really support the ongoing use and growth of our products in partnership with our customers. I think another piece that speaks to the quality of what we're doing and the confidence is that we have forged some strong industry and technology channel partnerships where our products and content are offered alongside our partners, or in the case of like data exchange partners, we are starting to get DrugBank products on their data marketplaces. We just released some data sets on Snowflake this week. This is really exciting for us. That really reduces friction in allowing our customers to be able to access that in a more seamless, faster way and get the value out of the product sooner rather than later.
Thanks, Alexa. Michael, do you want to add to that? I suspect there was no inbound funnel when you first started. Was it mostly outbound hustle, or how did you get your first
Well, when we
first
first
customers?
started, there was actually inbound requests before, like that was one of the things that kind of led to the initial seed of the idea of maybe we should spin DrugBank out into a company, because we had companies coming and saying, hey, we want to try to do this with the DrugBank data. So there was always inbound, but inbound has, because DrugBank is kind of a very large breadth of information. One of the things that was interesting about that was, we had a lot of inbound, but it was kind of all over the place, right? And we still get a lot of, opportunistic one-off things that come in where there's some, we've even had, I think one of the more unique ones was like Scotland Yard. They wanted to get a database. They were trying to figure out something around, someone had been dumping waste illegally, and they were trying to figure out what all these bottles were. And so it's like, we'll get really random, that we obviously don't have a in our business plan, we didn't specify Scotland Yard as one of our customer types. So what that means is, the pro and the con there is, when you're starting, right, finding your focus is really important. And so there's always a lot of opportunity. And so in the early days of DrugBank, some of that, some of the time there was understanding, okay, what are these, there's these things coming in, which ones have a substantial market? Where is there a good opportunity for growth? Where do we really have a good product market fit, right? And we still, still today, we get some of those inbound things, and we can support some of them, but we kind of manage our expectations around some of those more one-off use cases. We don't know if we're going to have the product market fit there necessarily, but we have a lot of unique data sets that we've put together. So we do get a lot of interest from different places. And so that's kind of always been an important part of DrugBank, is that reach that we have. And when we started the company, we had quite a lot of traffic on the site. We had something like, I think it was 3 or 4 million at that time. So it's now we're at 21 million, and so it's really gone up significantly, right, over time as well. And it's inbound, I think, is always having that inbound channel, and having that awareness of DrugBank is a really difficult thing to achieve. So we're fortunate to have that kind of traction, and we have built up a lot of trust as well. Like we have groups like the FDA, the NIH. There's many sites where they link back to DrugBank as a trusted source of information. So, for example, the NIH in the US publishes their list of drug labels, their list of what drugs are available. The only site they link back to on that page for more information is DrugBank. So there's a number of things like that. The DrugBank identifiers have become somewhat of a industry standard. There's people that publish papers that sometimes they'll refer to the drug as just the DrugBank identifier. And so these kinds of things mean that DrugBank is, in a lot of places, so a lot of people see it. There's a lot of awareness that drives a lot of those, that inbound. So it's an area that we keep wanting to, we want to keep growing that, right? And that bottom up strategy that Alexa was talking about, where we take, users signing up can start using our site for free, and then we can give them paths to become customers, is still an area where there's a lot more room to keep optimizing that and keep growing how that works. And that's something that we're really excited about.
Well, that's very, very impressive. Jangir, you're in the hot seat. You're an investor in DrugBank. Tell us about how'd you meet DrugBank? Why'd you invest in them? And as a clinician, like, how do you think this helps with workflow, clinical, if it could, benefit as a practitioner yourself?
All right, sure. Thanks for having me. A few questions there, Carl. So maybe I'll start with why DrugBank was a compelling investment. So everyone's talking about AI today. Post ChatGPT in November 2022, it's become really hot. But we invested in DrugBank back in 2020, before everybody was on the AI train. And what we saw here is that DrugBank is curating entire knowledge base of any drug anywhere in the world on a daily basis. So we could see how like medical knowledge has like advanced a ton in the last century, but there's so much coming out every day. So how do you actually A, have access to it, and then B, understand it? So what DrugBank was able to do using natural language processing and their proprietary software is curate all this information, but then the magic was really around linking it to structure it and link it. So you've got like a clinical trial result, and then you've got something else about side effects, and then you've got, another thing about like the drug and the receptors that it binds to, and its mechanism and its molecular structure. So there's all these different boxes, and they can all be linked. And the magic is that every time something else comes out, like 2 minutes ago, something else just came out, it makes everything else in the box stronger because you've got a new piece of information that could link to all these others and makes it stronger. So that's really a magical sort of process. I think that's kind of something that's unique about what DrugBank is doing. And if we sort of go on that thread and what Michael's been talking about, the number of users and things, like everybody on the call today uses Google. And in finance, a lot of people use Bloomberg terminals, right? Traders will use it. So DrugBank really, in our mind, was like the Bloomberg terminal for pharmacology, right? Anybody who's touching a drug for whatever reason, right, would be using DrugBank. So I think I could say more, but I wasn't sure of the rest of your questions. I forgot.
Yeah, that's great. What was day in the life like? Just very quick, Jangir. What was day in the life like pre-DrugBank? Like, were you scanning through compendiums or going on Google? I think you mentioned Google a little bit, but like,
Are you picking on my
from
gray hair?
Yeah,
I know
yeah,
Michael and I have the same
yeah.
sweater on here, it looks like, but he doesn't have the gray hair that I do. So now
Well,
you're picking on my
I've
gray hair.
definitely got some on my chin though. More and more.
So like before this, exactly, there was CPS, there was like big encyclopedia type of like books that were on like every hospital ward, and you'd be going through those things, and very hard to go deep. Like whatever's on that page, you try to read that page, but hard to link and then, go to other pages and things like that. So so I think it's super interesting also, like how you think of DrugBank, how they've permeated the globe. So they're used by top pharma, but they're also used by like students, right? So there's certain clients are paying customers, but the brand awareness is global.
Very cool. Jangir, as a health tech
Oh,
investor,
yeah.
what are some of the trend lines you're seeing as it relates to the convergence of IT and software and clinicians that have problems? Are you seeing a very significant trend line there, or are you still in terms of new innovation, or are you still seeing the big dominant players that still occupy the space and have a lot of control and entrenchment in terms of who gets used for what purpose versus a startup that's still struggling to sort of penetrate big bureaucratic healthcare organizations? Do you think there's a chance, and how do you think they can 5x 10x their chances of being successful? Because it's few companies that hold massive market share in bureaucratic organizations, and so they're battling some serious headwinds.
Okay. Interesting. So maybe I could take that about like trends and sort of keep it to the topic of what we're talking about with DrugBank and here in Alberta. Like, so again, everybody knows about AI. One of the biggest uses of AI in healthcare so far has been around drug discovery. And why is drug discovery important? So we think about like the big diseases we have today, right? Cancer, obesity, diabetes, right? And think about what's happening right now in the world. So like in cancer, immunotherapy with CAR T cell therapy and cancer vaccines that are coming out, right? Totally revolutionizing something that the globe has been working on for the last 5 decades, right? So the future for cancer treatment is really optimistic based on drug discovery. So immunotherapy is this idea that we can stimulate the body's own immune response to fight cancer, right? So we do this all the time. Our body's always eradicating cancers, but sometimes it's just not strong enough. And then we get what, clinically we call, malignant disease. So the immunotherapy is a big deal. And you see some of these new therapies that just come out, diabetes and obesity. So like in the last 2 years, everybody knows about Ozempic and GLP-1 agonists, and Novo Nordisk has become the largest publicly traded company in Europe. It's like surpassed Louis Vuitton. They're the makers of Ozempic, right? So you see these massive trends occurring in drug discovery, and companies like Moderna that are totally looking at different ways of making drugs. And you see, I think it's nice to see how that's impacting the major diseases, that humanity is dealing with today.
Great. Thanks, Jangir. Mike, switching back to you on a slightly adjacent topic related to growth. DrugBank is a serial winner of Best Places to Work. What edge have you created in your people function that allows you to be a highly desired place for people to come and spend 10, 12 hours a day building your business alongside you?
Yeah, so there's a few things. From the early days as a pretty small company, we put a lot of thought into how we were building the culture and the values of the company. And so we, as a small company, when we were, I think, around 10 or less people, was when we kind of sat down and went through, what the values of the company, define them together, and figured out, how do we want to work together? What do we want this to be? And so doing that at an early point was really important. There's a number of kind of philosophies that Craig and I had around building an organization. And a big thing is focusing on creating an environment where the work can be rewarding. So where you're a lot of that kind of benefit is coming from like that intrinsic motivation that you're doing a great job, you're doing great work, you're seeing the impact of your work. And because of the area we work in, you also seen that impact on the world and seen that impact on human health. Those things are really exciting and make you feel good about what you're doing. And so that's like the thing at the core. And we have a belief that when we set up the right environment in that way, when we give people a lot of autonomy, and when we give people a lot of responsibility, and we give people the tools to understand the impact of their work, then the team does their best work, right? And the culture at DrugBank is really strong because everyone at the company also buys into it, and they want to make it a great place to work. You can't make it a great place to work by just saying, hey, everyone, this needs to be a great place to work. Everyone has to buy in. They bring their best selves to work. When we switched to a hybrid and remote during COVID, it was a lot of uncertainty around how are we going to maintain a strong culture. And one of the interesting or surprising things that came out of that was it forced us to be even more intentional about our culture, because we actually had some remote workers at that time, but we realized, like, okay, if we want to, if you don't have any of the accidental benefit, when you're in person, you can run into people, get to know each other, but now it's like everything needs to be intentional. You need to set up times to just talk to people, meet with people, have chit chat. You need to find ways to get to know your coworkers. We have things like when someone joins the company, there's sort of welcome meeting. There's a buddy program. There's all these different things to help people kind of get to know their coworkers, get integrated in the company. So there's a lot of different things that happen there, and a lot of thought has been put into it. And we really started putting thought into it at the very beginning. And of course, when we're hiring, we're also looking for people that are gonna match our values and match the culture. But the culture is also always evolving over time, and so that's important. As the company grows, things that worked at 10 people won't work, at 20 people or 50, or at once we reach 100 people, there'll be new things we're going to have to do. So we also have to be continuously improving, but the values are kind of that foundation that we build on. How we live those values and how we show up evolves over time as the company grows.
Right. Yeah, that's great. That's congratulations on that. Alexa and Mike, InterGen, the crux of what we do here is really pairing executive individuals and people that want to sort of help growing companies with these growing companies. And, advisory and mentorship is a big part of why we exist and what we do day to day. How has mentorship or key advisors personally and professionally been pivotal to you being operators and growing a company successfully in spite of the challenges of growing a business, especially health in Alberta? We're not necessarily known for that.
Yeah. Mentorship super important. In any career, I think it's always good to learn from experience of others. So there's a lot of different ways that like personally that I seek mentorship. So there's pure mentorship from other founders, CEOs, or people that are just a little bit ahead of you, can also have some great insights. When we look for investors, we always look for investors that can also bring in, some kind of experience or resources, et cetera, that can, help the company succeed in different ways. And sometimes that's also, mentorship. So Jahangar's an example where he's provided some great mentorship over the years as well, and guidance, advice around different areas of the business. And it's important to kind of, I guess, build a network where you can find have different people in your network that you could reach out to around specific questions, and not be afraid to reach out and say, yeah, there's this thing I want to figure out, right? And then of course, there's some great books and things as well to get insights and guidance from, but having a conversation with a great mentor there's quite a few points where it's unlocked and unlocked a big change in the company, or unlocked some kind of next step for the way that I personally work or the way that I approach things. So it's been it's critical. Yeah, it's critical.
Right. Yeah, that's great. Alexa, any closing points on that comment around mentorship and advice?
For sure. I'm a huge Ted Lasso fan, and the always be curious is really something that I try to really embrace in my career, in my personal life, and also realizing that every single person you meet is an expert about something. So there's all the formal mentorship channels that Mike has talked about, but I think also seeking informal mentors and looking at people who you might not traditionally think could be a mentor, whether those are early career, different generation than you, business people, customers, wherever. And so I really think that one of the key pieces to executing vision and being able to execute at speed is being able to be resilient and connect dots in different ways and see patterns in different ways. And many of the companies that are leading companies in their space, many times what they're doing isn't unique. It's just unique to the market that they're bringing it to. Like someone else has done it, and healthcare has a 10-year lag at least on technology, right? So being able to learn from other folks, other industries, I think it's really valuable. It helps you be flexible. It helps you see alternative paths and be creative. And as an entrepreneur, like those are things that you definitely need to do. And even as a business leader in an established organization, sometimes breaking out of this is how we've always done it and giving a shot of new knowledge is really important to success.
Awesome. That's great. Thanks for that. I think resilience is something that needs to sort of be highly underscored because it's tough out there, right? Mike, you're going into financing. We got a bunch of people that are interested in investing and looking to diversify portfolios either as a ultra high net worth angel or institutional money on the call. Do you want to give us a little bit of color on that before we go into the Q&A?
Sure. Yeah. So we're going into our next round of financing here right away, and so I mean we're looking for interested parties that want to learn more about DrugBank, learn more about how we're accelerating the development of drugs and accelerating what really changing how drug researchers work, how they're able to work on complex therapies and complex diseases. We've got a lot of great technology and traction to build on, and we have a really exciting vision. So I would love for people, especially investors that are interested in the biotech space or the life science space or healthcare IT space, B2B SaaS, etc. We always want to find investors that also have a great fit with the business that we're in. And so, yeah, anyone that's interested in, please reach out. We'll get on an intro call, and it'd be great to meet you and talk a bit more about the business.
Thanks. How much are you raising, Mike?
We are not publishing that information at the moment. Sorry.
Okay. If you're interested in investing, reach out to us and we can connect with Mike. Mike, is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be
Okay,
great.
Let's kick off the Q&A session. Jangir, over to you.
All right, thanks, Khaled. So maybe we could, we heard like how DrugBank is an Alberta company and it's got a presence here in Alberta and then Canada and across North America and global. So how do you, Alexa and Mike, how do you guys balance that with what you were talking earlier about like focus? Like what could other entrepreneurs learn about that? Like everybody wants to be a global company. So how have you achieved, that status and still be able to maintain focus?
Yeah. So, I mentioned earlier that we had a lot of different kind of inbound requests and inbound in different areas. And an important thing for us determining out where we focus has been also, you can have a product market fit there, but it's important to also have a fit in a large market. So we were always clear on the level of ambition we had with the company. We wanted to grow the company into we want to grow the company into a large company. We want to be in a large market. We want to be in it. So we need to find the right fit in a large market, etc. And so for us, a lot of that has come through, talking to customers, talking to users, the market research that we've done, the way that things have evolved over time in the various industries. And so when we do our market research, we also have focused on specific geographic areas. And so we have, there's drug companies around the world, but our primary focus where we focus for growth is North America and Europe, where there's a lot of pharma companies, there's a lot of large pharma companies. And so we also have a focus in that way where when we're targeting our marketing efforts or we're targeting our sales efforts or conferences, we're looking at those geographic areas. Yeah, it's, when you always have a limited amount of resources. So for us, it's sort of a natural thing that we need to look beyond just Alberta for, pharma companies. Many of them are just spread out in different places. There is hot spots, of course, like, like Boston, like San Francisco, but San Diego, but many of them are spread out in different countries, etc. So it was a natural thing that we needed to be looking outside, and we have with
big
the reach on the
markets
website,
and then
global reach as well.
geographically focused.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
Thanks for the question, Jangir. We have Bindi from Alberta Innovates has a question.
I'm still trying to get over the shock of you are the only link on the FDA site. Like I'm so in awe of what you guys have been able to do. I remember, I'm dating myself here, but I remember when you guys were this was still in early days at the U of A. So really impressive what I'm hearing today. And I'm just curious in terms of, what are some of those pain points that you might still be experiencing in terms of your growth? There's a lot of folks on the call that maybe can help elevate your cause and help you guys grow, but also importantly, I think for all of us, keep you here in Alberta. So I'd love to hear your thoughts around that.
Yeah, so I mean, our pain points for growth. So what we have done, we've taken an approach where when we're recruiting talent, we do look across Canada. So Alex is actually one of our first US employees. But we have around half of our employees are located in Alberta. And so we haven't had, in terms of pain points for growth, we haven't had as much pain points around hiring because we've built a fairly attractive business. We've been able to recruit some great people to the company. And we built a great system there. We're always looking to, expand our customer base, of course. So, I mean, a very easy way to help is always if you have introductions for people you think there's a great fit that we may not know, that's always welcomed, of course. That's always a great way to help. If there's partners, I mean, one of the things that we've been starting to do is bringing in these third-party content partners that are complementary to DrugBank. And so one we have is ASHP. They're a large organization in the US that's an authoritative resource for information about drugs for pharmacists. They publish, for example, a list of off-label indications, and when they publish that, then that means that insurance companies will reimburse it. So we have an exclusive relationship with them to bring their content into our platform to supplement things for pharma companies. So if there's ideas you have around that, or someone, a company that's potentially complementary information that we could bring in, that's of interest as well. And yeah, I mean, technology partners as well. So I think Alexa mentioned that we've started to expand into more data exchanges. So we have a channel partner strategy where we're bringing DrugBank into other platforms so that customers who are already on those platforms can turn on DrugBank and get that benefit right in that spot where they're already working. And so that's another interesting area that we'd be looking for introductions.
Great, thanks for the question, Bindi. Rahim's an avid and serial life science investor, also at Fluid Biobet right now. Rahim, we're short on time, so if you want to ask one of the two questions, that would be appreciated.
Oops, sorry about that. Perfect. Thanks, Todd. Yeah, no, thanks for putting this on and thanks for participating at the DrugBank. I'm curious, just, I am invested in the space as well, and for AI for drug discovery. And I was curious, for you guys, I know the market size is, obviously humongous globally. How are you guys, I guess one is a question of differentiation or segmentation. How are you guys kind of focusing? And then second, how are you guys mitigating your need for computing power? Thank you.
Okay, so what was the first part of the question?
Just in terms of, it is one of how do you compete? Obviously, there's more dollars, there's more companies focusing on the space, but it's really a question of how are you finding your niche in this big market?
Right. Yeah, so I mean, the AI drug discovery space is a big, it's a growing space. There's a lot of companies that are focused on actually developing their own drugs, and we actually work with a lot of those companies as well. So we bring, I mean, they bring DrugBank data in there. So you can find, if you go to any, pharma data science conference, you'll hear a lot of people complaining about trying to connect data together, data normalization, these major problems. And so lots of these AI pharma companies also leverage DrugBank as a foundation for some of the work they're doing. So we have a number of proprietary ontologies that cover all the major biomedical concepts. We have a lot of relationships and things that are already there. And so when we work with those AI pharma companies, they can build off of DrugBank. They can use DrugBank to augment their models and train models. They can use it for building, connecting different data sets together. So that's one way where we fit in the industry. And the other way is that when you have these tools, they help in different areas, like maybe identifying a drug target, identifying a candidate, but there's still a lot of important questions that those individual researchers need to dig in and improve their own understanding. And so that's where we see a really large opportunity. It's really changing the way that all those individuals are working. And when we look at all these technology advances, there's still a lot of challenges in adopting AI in the industry. There's always limited number of data scientists, there's limited AI specialists, there's limited resources in that way. And so when you look at even some of the large pharma companies, they might have a sort of data science department, and they have a big queue of biologists and pharmacologists and chemists that are waiting to get an analysis done, and they're meanwhile doing a lot of manual work themselves, et cetera. So there's a lot of those kinds of challenges that we see as really important opportunities that we can address. And you're on mute now, I think.
Thanks, Mike. I said, unfortunately, we're out of time. We're a little bit past. It was a stellar session, Mike and Alexa. So thank you to you guys for taking the time this hour to share your story with the InterGen community. InterGen community, pleasure to always have you. And a thank you to all our sponsors, the top 7, RBC, Synovus, Prairie Scan, Alberta Innovates, and OSIF. So we will be having a very similar session next month, another university spinoff in the health tech space. And so we look forward to seeing you there. Take care and chat soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.